All right, Prabhu.
Robin tại chấp tại miêu trong miêu tại chấp tại đó có đi biết
Oh, Amit, you can hold the recording for a minute or two. Amit's there. Hare Krishna, everybody. Hari Bol. I'm very happy to be here with you all today, having an opportunity to celebrate this most auspicious occasion of Nrsimha Caturdasi. And I'm planning just to go through chapter 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the Bhagavatam. Srila Gurudev would always request that we read directly from the Bhagavatam on this particular day because it's so packed with so many amazing instructions and such special sweetness. So I want to particularly stick to the text today. So, Om Gina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Taralaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantamana Petyam Apetya Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tammaya Tayo Tarabhavanidastam Sarabhabutam Hidi Anatosmi Munimanatosmi. So I'm first of all offering millions and millions of my Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev Nitya Lila Prabhishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimat Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again, millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Lila Prabhishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimat Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Maharaj. And all the Vaishnav and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams on this most auspicious day. So in the 11th canto, when Krishna is instructing Uddhav in devotional service, in bhakti yoga, in the 29th chapter, in the 11th verse, he's saying directly that either alone or in public gatherings with singing, dancing, and other exhibitions of royal opulence, one should arrange to celebrate those holy days, ceremonies, and festivals set aside specially for my worship. So this is our path of sadhana bhakti. Through our lifetime, any opportunity we have, and it comes sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 times in a week, to offer our worship and homage towards the great personalities, and particularly the avatars of Krishna. Avatar means, the etymology is to descend, one who descends. So our path is avaroha, the path of descending knowledge. So this word avatar. So, but today, Nrsimhadeva, Nrsimha Caturdasi, and certainly for the Western devotees, he is so close to our hearts, without a doubt. Every year we celebrate, usually with a drama. We have so much singing, Harikatha, etc. And we celebrate to our capacity, because we understand that living particularly in the Western world, the dangers that are all around us in the form of attraction to the illusory energy. And Prahlad Maharaj in particular gives the highest demonstration of how to surmount this intolerable illusion that is around us, how to purify our consciousnesses to be focusing on principally Krishna and his teachings and his esteemed devotees, and how to become fearless in this time in particular on the planet, it's gripped probably with more fear than I personally have ever experienced in my life. I've never been more aware of the fear temperature as it is today. I'm practically 72 years old, and for most of my life, I have never been in any situation that has been particularly fearful. But now I'm experiencing that the general person has become fearful. So this is a very, very timely, beautiful occasion to celebrate that greatest personality who showed in front of his demonic father the quality of total, utter fearlessness. So we all know the pastime. Hiranyakashipu, his brother Hiranyaksha, was killed by Vishnu, killed by Varahadev. So Hiranyakashipu felt great animosity towards Vishnu. Of course, Hiranyakashipu is the manifestation of Vijay. Jai and Vijay, they were cursed, we know the pastime, by the Kumaras to take 3 births in this material world. So when Hiranyaksha was defeated by Vishnu, this just increased the already dormant anger within the heart of Hiranyakashipu. He wanted particularly to sport with the Lord. This was actually his intention. And the way it manifested was that he took the form of a demon to do that. The Lord, he enjoys that rasa, to fight with the demons. He's not averse to that. So they both desired Jai and Vijay to manifest in ways that would please the Lord most. They are the Lord's gatekeepers. They are, of course, Nitya Siddha Parikas of the Lord. So Hiranyakashipu, he had performed austerities, standing on the tips of his toes and with his arms in the air for 60,000 years. He performed these austerities. And while he was performing these austerities, the devas, they could invade the demon kingdom, the kingdom of Hiranyakashipu. Actually, Hiranyakashipu had already defeated the demigods previously. And then he had gone to perform these severe austerities to gain immortality, to petition his Ishtadev, Lord Brahma, with the boons to become immortal. So during this period, the demigods, they again took back their kingdom, and they found the wife of Hiranyakashipu, Kayadu, and she was pregnant. And they were going to actually wait for the birth of the child and then kill the child, because they were sure, of course, logically, that the son of such a great demon would also be a demon. But Narad intervened and requested them to take the mother to his ashram. And for 60,000 years, Sri Naradji, the pure devotee, Nitya Siddha Parikar, he instructed Sri Prahlad within the womb of his mother. And Srila Gurudev describes that the potency of the Mahabhagavat has the power to penetrate, to enter within the womb very easily. So Prahlad was very submissively hearing all the truths of the glories of Krishna and the beauty of Krishna and how to serve Krishna, etc. And then Hiranyakashipu, once he had performed his austerities, and a great fire arose out of his head. And the fire was inconveniencing everyone in the universe. And they rushed to Lord Brahma and requested, what is the cause of this great heat that is coming everywhere in the universe? And Lord Brahma said, oh, this is from Hiranyakashipu's austerities. So Brahma at that time, he came on his swan carrier and he saw Hiranyakashipu in his performing his austerities. And we see the beautiful painting in the Bhagavatam, how most of his body had been covered by an anthill, and just his head basically was free. So this is the extent of this demon's austerities. And then, of course, we know the pastime, how Lord Brahma, he poured some water from his kamandalu, and then Hiranyakashipu's body became strong like a thunderbolt. And then Hiranyakashipu, he requested to become immortal. But we understand that, of course, not even Lord Brahma is immortal. So Lord Brahma were related, well, I am not immortal, so I can't give you this boon. So then Hiranyakashipu thought, well, I'll trick Lord Brahma into giving me such boons that I will become almost immortal. He requested that he wouldn't die in the day or the night. He wouldn't die in any month or any year. He wouldn't die by the hand of any living entity, any demigod, etc. He wouldn't die by any weapon. Anybody, what other boons were there? Somebody want to contribute anything? I think I just about covered it.
In the air or on the earth?
In the air or on the earth, correct. Thank you.
Inside or outside?
No,
Inside or
outside.
outside. Yes, you see, we know this pastime so well. All of us, we've heard for so many years this beautiful pastime. So I'm just going to repeat this pastime basically. And any of you, if you want to throw in any adjustments or comments as we scroll along through the pastimes, please feel free to unmute and do like that. So when Hiranyakashipu returned to his kingdom, then immediately all his cohorts came back, all the demons, and they drove the demigods out of their own palaces, etc. And then Hiranyakashipu started a tyrannical reign. And I've often thought in the last 18 months of these external situations that we're enduring now, that it's nothing like as bad as the tyranny that Hiranyakashipu put on humanity. He was slaughtering the cows. He was stopping the Vedic yagyas. He was killing the brahmanas, it's described. He was chopping down trees because he knew they were very dear to the Vaishnavas. So he was performing all these atrocities on the planet. So if we're thinking at the moment there's some difficulties on the planet, we should just contemplate what was actually taking place then. And then, of course, his beautiful son, Prahlad, was in the school, in the Gurukul, with the other children. And one day it's described that his mother dressed him very nicely, and he came into the assembly of his father. And in the assembly of his father, I'm going to quote here from the 5th chapter. It said, once upon a time, the king of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, took his son Prahlad on his lap and very affectionately inquired, my dear son, please let me know what you think is the best of all the subjects you have studied from your teachers. So he didn't ask him any specific question. He asked him what he thought was the best instruction he had received. So that left some scope for Prahlad to reply from his heart, basically. So he says, so now there's one Mataji from Bhopal. She's a Sanskrit scholar from birth practically. So she's going to read the verses as we go through. So if Rati Manjari can read this verse 5 of chapter 5 now, this is what Prahlad first spoke to his tyrannical father. This is the first verse that we have recorded that he's speaking to Hiranyakashipu, 5-year-old boy. Okay, Rati Manjari, you say this verse now.
Yes, Maharaj. Dandavat pranam. Namo Vishnupadaya Shri Narayan Piyatmani Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Siddhanti Name Shri Prahaladu Vacha Tat Sadhu Manye Asurvarya Dehina Sada Samudvigna Diyam Satraha Hisvatma Patam Grahamanda Kupam Vanam Gatoya Dharimashrayeta.
So Prahlad replied to his father, O best of the Asuras, king of the demons, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master, any person who has accepted a temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest, the Vana. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and one should thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srila Gurudev used to like to explain to us what is the nature of this Ananda Koop, what is this covered dark well. And he tells the story of the king who's hunting, and the tiger attacks the king who's on his horse at that time. The king doesn't have time to defend himself, and his horse stumbles, and the king, he runs in fear from the tiger, and he falls into a covered well. And as he's falling, he grabs 2 branches as he's falling, and he feels himself, yes, I've saved myself. But then he looks up and he sees the ferocious face of the tiger just looking down into the well. And then he glances down below into this dry well, and it's filled with venomous snakes he can see underneath him. So he's hanging on to these 2 branches. Somehow by providence, these branches were there. But then he notices that there's a black and there's a white rat that are chewing away at the very branches that he's holding on to. So then he becomes terrified. He's got death personified in the form of the tiger glowering at him. He's got these fearful venomous snakes below him, and he's seeing how his time is being ebbed away, in fact, by the eating away of these branches. One of the rats is black and one is white, and these represent the time factor, the day and the night, how the day and the night are reducing everyone's lifespan on this planet. And as he's hanging in this extremely fearful condition, when he grabbed the branches, it shook a tree that was above the dry well. Within that tree, there was a beehive, and the beehive had a stock of honey, and the honey was dripping right past his nose and his mouth as he was hanging in this most precarious situation. And he reached out with his tongue, and he was able to grab a drop of that honey. And he was thinking, how sweet is this honey? Even though he was in a totally fearful condition, he was relishing the sweetness of this honey and not attending to the proper thoughts that he should have for trying to actually extricate himself from this well. So this is exactly what this material world is like. We have the sensation of sex life. We have the sensation of subtle sex life, fame, adoration, and distinction, etc., which we become attracted to more than applying ourselves diligently of how to actually extricate ourselves from this precarious situation we are in this material world. We are going to die, or this temporary body is going to leave us for sure. At any moment, this body can leave us. And yet we are just so distracted by the various pleasures around us in life. It's remarkable when we view the general populace, we see how this hedonistic society is racing towards different varieties of pleasures in every sort imaginable. They are trying to actually squeeze some pleasure out of this world. And yet we're all going to leave these temporary material bodies. What is the point of these material bodies? The spirit soul can never enjoy matter. Only matter can enjoy matter. Therefore, we are covered by this false ego, this material false ego, this temporary identity of being these bodies. And we're trying to exploit the pleasures, the so-called pleasures of this material world. So Hiranyakashipu, this great demon, of course, he had become expert in exploiting the various pleasures of this material world. It's described that his powers, because he had all the powers of the devas at his disposal, so he could control the movements of the tides. Even he could tell Varunadev which jewels to actually distribute on the beaches, because the jewels, they come from the ocean bed. He could tell the various devas in charge of the constellations, the celestial constellations, which auspicious constellations he wanted to have at particular times. He could tell the devas of the seasons, which season to actually be produced. We can't imagine the extent of Hiranyakashipu's control. This is fascinating to appreciate, the extent of his control. We see these little demons at the moment running around the planet, telling us all to wear masks and telling us to get vaccinated and all kinds of things like this. And we think, yes, they have a lot of power. They had nothing like the power that Hiranyakashipu had. So we see this amazing control he had. What are the qualities of the demons? They want to control and they want to inspire fear. These two qualities are the qualities of demons. And we see this today. We should take note and appreciate how these Bhagavatam pastimes are so much illuminating our present situation. Nothing is separate from the Bhagavatam teachings. So Hiranyakashipu was controlling everything, except he could not control his 5-year-old little son. So we see in this verse how Prahlad, he's fearlessly confronting his father that actually you should not accept these temporary material pleasures in household, because they will cause us anxiety in this deep, dark well. He's trying compassionately. This is a great, great quality that we hope we will appreciate more today than we have ever appreciated, is the exceptional compassion of Prahlad Maharaj. So then Prahlad spoke about the path of devotional service to his father. And he's saying that he's trying to encourage his father towards devotional service. His father, of course, becomes incensed by this instruction from his young child. And then his father, Hiranyakashipu, it's described, advised his assistants, "My dear demons, give complete protection to this boy at the Gurukul where he is instructed, so that his intelligence will not be further influenced by Vaishnavas. Who may go there in disguise." So Hiranyakashipu has become very frightened. So then the teachers, Sunda and Umarka, they take Prahlad back to the Gurukul after he's confronted his father initially. He hasn't submitted to his father's desire for him to say something glorious about the demonic ways. He's glorified instead the Vaishnava path. So then again, he's taken by Sunda and Umarka, and they inquire from him, "My dear Prahlad, all peace and good fortune unto you. Kindly do not speak lies, just reply with the truth. These boys you see are not like you, for they do not speak in a deviant way. How have you learned these instructions? How has your intelligence been spoiled in this way?" The two teachers are very afraid because they're terrified of Hiranyakashipu, of course. So they're trying to do their duty and to convince Prahlad to follow the demonic path. Then they say, "O best of your family, has this pollution of your intelligence been brought about by you or by the enemies? We are all your teachers and are very eager to hear about this. Please tell us the truth." So they're trying to inquire where Prahlad has got his understanding of the Vaishnava Dharma. And then Prahlad replies, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose external energy has created the distinctions of my friend and my enemy." This is exactly as we see the demonic mentality. They always want to divide the populace and have the populace themselves kill one another. So now this is actually taking place in the world now. The populace is being divided greatly by deluding the intelligence of men. Indeed, I am now actually experiencing this, although I have previously heard of it from authoritative sources. So Prahlad is speaking like this to his teachers. Then he says, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with the living entity because of his devotional service, one becomes a pundit and does not make distinctions between enemies, friends, and himself. Intelligently, he then thinks, every one of us is an eternal servant of God, and therefore we are not different from one another. This is a profound teaching for us to imbibe today in our present circumstances. So now Prahlad continues his teachings, and in text 14, there's a beautiful verse that Srila Gurudev would like to hear. And Rati Manjari, you can chant this text 14, please.
Yatha brahmyatyayo brahman swayamakarshya sannidhau tatha me vidyate chetash chakrapaniryadrachaya.
So the translation, O Brahmanas, teachers, as iron attracted by a magnet stone moves automatically towards the magnet, my consciousness, having been changed by his will, is attracted by Lord Vishnu, who carries a disc in his hand. Thus, I have no independence. So this is the quality of Prahlad. We understand Prahlad is called a Jnani Bhakta. A Jnani Bhakta essentially means that personality who understands fully the power and potency, the Aishwarya Shakti of the Lord prominently. Uddhav also is considered a Jnani Bhakta. Bhishma Dev is also a Jnani Bhakta. Jad Bharat in the Bhagavatam is also a Jnani Bhakta. They see the Lord in full opulence. Their Sthai Bhav is designed in that way to see like this. So Prahlad Maharaj, he's a Nitya Siddha Parika. He's an eternal associate of Nrsimhadev in the planet of Nrsimhadev in the Vaikuntha realm. So the translation of this verse that Rati Manjari has just quoted, the great saint Narad continued. The great Narad Muni, we understand, is talking to Yudhisthira Maharaj at the sacrifice of the Rajasuya sacrifice. He's explaining, because the history is that Sahadev suggested that Krishna should be the personality that everybody should worship. But Shishupal, he objected to that. And he became very blasphemous towards Krishna. And at that time, Krishna, with his Sudarshan chakra, he severs his head. And then all the assembly see the soul of Shishupal merge into the foot of Krishna, the lotus foot of Sri Krishna. So then Yudhisthira, he's inquiring about this to Narad Muni. And Narad Muni is relating this pastime to Yudhisthira. So this Bhagavatam is so sublime. It has so many pastimes within pastimes within pastimes. So this pastime, overall, the overall pastime is being narrated directly by Narad Rishi, who his disciple is directly Prahlad Maharaj, because he instructed him within the womb. So the great saint Narad Muni continued, the great soul Prahlad Maharaj became silent after saying this to his teachers. Sanda Anamarka, the seminal sons of Sukracharya, these so-called Brahmanas, then became angry at him. Because they were servants of Hiranyakashipu, they were very sorry And to chastise Prahlad Maharaj, they spoke as follows. Oh, please bring a stick. This Prahlad is damaging our name and fame. Because of his bad intelligence, he's become like a cinder in the dynasty of the demons. Now he needs to be treated by the fourth of the four kinds of political diplomacy. So the fourth type of diplomacy is to beat your adversary. So they took immediately to this. And then they're saying this rascal Prahlad has appeared like a thorn tree in a forest of sandalwood to cut down sandalwood trees. An axe is needed, and the wood of the thorn tree is very suitable for the handle of such an axe. Lord Vishnu is the axe for cutting down the sandalwood forest of the family of demons, and this Prahlad is the handle for that axe. So they're terrified that actually Sri Vishnu is going to come and defeat the demons. So they're referring to Prahlad as being like the handle of this axe. And then Sanda and Umarka, they chastise and threaten Prahlad in so many ways. And after some time, they consider that he's actually been educated, because Prahlad Maharaj has just become silent. And he's not answering, he's just tolerating all the abuse that he's receiving. And then one day, after Prahlad's mother had personally washed the boy and dressed him nicely with sufficient ornaments, they presented him to his father. And again, Hiranyakashipu saw that his child had fallen at his feet and was offering obeisances. Of course, this is the dharma of any principled personality. By the way, I just have to interrupt here that we've had rain most of the day here where I am in Navadvip, and we had the remnants of a cyclone that came through. And most of the day, our power has actually been off. And by Krishna's mercy, it's on at the moment. But if it goes off, there'll be probably a minute of silence from my end while the Wi-Fi switches to the mobile data. And then I'll come on again, but probably not with the video, so as not to use up so much bandwidth. But we may be able to continue by Krishna's mercy, even if the power goes off. So it's just begun raining again. So I just wanted to let you all know that might happen. So when Hiranyakashipu saw that his child had fallen at his feet and was offering obeisances, as an affectionate father, he immediately began showering blessings upon the child and embraced him with both arms. A father naturally feels happy to embrace his son, and Hiranyakashipu became very happy in this way. And then he seated Prahlad on his lap and began smelling his head. With affectionate tears gliding from his eyes and moistening the child's smiling face, he spoke to his son as follows. Hiranyakashipu said, "My dear Prahlad, my dear son, O long-lived one, for so much time you have heard many things from your teachers. Now please repeat to me whatever you think is the best of that knowledge." So this is the most famous of all of Prahlad's direct replies to his father. Rati Manjari, you say these 23 and 24, please.
Yes, Shri Prahlad Uvacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyamatma Nivedanam Iti Punsarpita Vishnu Bhaktischennavalakshana Kriyeta Bhagavatyadha Tanmayedhitamuttamam.
So Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These are the Navada Bhakti, the 9 limbs of bhakti. that our Sri Prahlad first speaks to his father. So this makes up the foundation of our Vaishnava practices, following these 9 principal angas of bhakti: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, and Atmanivedanam. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So even if one, it's described, is born in a low-class family, even in the family of demons. Of course, Prahlad Maharaj himself is born in the family of a demon, and he is he is proclaiming the 9 angas, principal angas of devotional service. So in other words, this bhakti, as we will hear from Prahlad's instructions, is not the property of any Brahmin necessarily, or any high-class intelligent scholar. It is the gift for all humanity can come to this path of devotion to the Lord. So after hearing these words of devotional service from the mouth of his son Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry. His lips trembling, he spoke as follows to Sunda, the son of his guru Sukracharya. So we can just appreciate for a moment the absolute fearlessness of this young boy. We can imagine when we were young, our father was the principal authority figure in most cases, for most of us. And to come in front of your father and to completely contradict what you know that he takes his pleasure in, and you completely contradict him, would require an immense amount of courage, not even human courage. Prahlad has his courage gifted by the Lord himself, because Prahlad is entirely in the embrace of the Lord, as we will see further. This is the quality of Prahlad that comes out principally, is his extreme nishta. As we scroll through the 5 different types of relationship with Krishna, this Shantaras, Dasyaras, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, and Madhuryaras, we see there are various qualities within each of these rasas. And the first quality that Prahlad Maharaj exhibits to the highest degree is this nishta, this immovable faith in the Lord's presence within every atom of existence. We understand from this wonderful teaching of Advaya Gyan Paratattva, it's described that there is nothing in existence that is separate from the Lord. So Sri Prahlad is seeing with realized vision exactly like this. This is the greatness of Sri Prahlad. So when Hiranyakashipu, he becomes so angry, his lips are trembling, and he speaks to Sunda. He says, "O unqualified, most heinous son of a Brahmin, you have disobeyed my order and taken shelter of the party of my enemies. You have taught this poor boy about devotional service. What is this nonsense?" So, of course, he's immediately thinking that the teachers are responsible for Prahlad's Vaishnava behavior. But then they will reveal that this is not their teachings at all. That the son of Sukracharya, he says, "O enemy of King Indra, O king, whatever your son Prahlad has said was not taught to him by me or anyone else. His spontaneous devotional service has naturally developed in him. Therefore, please give up your anger and do not unnecessarily accuse us. It is not good to insult a Brahmin in this way." So the teachers are certainly in fear of Hiranyakashipu. And when Hiranyakashipu hears this, then he challenges his son. Where has he got this knowledge from? And Prahlad again fearlessly responds, "Because of their uncontrolled senses, person too addicted to materialistic life, make progress towards hellish conditions, and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations towards Krishna are never aroused, either by the instructions of others or by their efforts or by a combination of both. So this is a very famous verse that Srila Gurudev would regularly recite. So Rati Manjari, you can recite this text 30 of chapter 5.
Shri Prahlad Uvacha Matirna Krishne Paratah Svato Va Mitho Vipadyet Graha Vratana Adanta Gobhir Vashatam Tamistam Punaha Punashchar Charvananam.
Our beloved Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada will also quote this verse numerous times. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he has instructed that we should read this Prahlad Charita as many as 108 times in our lifetimes. So I'm trying today to, as much as possible, as much as time is there, to bring out the direct words of the Bhagavatam, which I feel are most powerful on this occasion. Gurudev commented, perhaps you might have listened to one class he was giving in Badger, and he was requesting the devotees to actually speak on these chapters, but they neglected that. So Gurudev was not happy, and he was expressing his displeasure that they weren't quoting directly from the Bhagavatam. So on this day in particular, every single year I can remember Srila Gurudev requesting us all to read these chapters throughout the day. So as much as possible, I want to stick to these chapters. So Rati Manjari, can you chant please text 31?
Nate viduh svarthagatim hi vishnum durashayaye bahirarthamanina andhayathandhair upaniyamana tepi shatantra murudamni baddha. So
if ever we have the time then to learn these verses and bring them to mind, Srila Gurudev would request us regularly to learn these verses. And previously, I was able to do some of these verses, but because I'm not speaking these verses constantly, I don't remember them always. So the translation of this, persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life, and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similar blind man attached to external sense objects, cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. As blind men, guided by another blind man, miss the right path and fall into a ditch, materially attached men, led by another materially attached man, are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering threefold misery. So it's interesting to appreciate this in parallel to our present circumstances, that many sage people, wise people, we can say, are coming up with various different options for controlling this apparent pandemic, this COVID. So, but none of these options is actually correct unless they take shelter of the Supreme Lord, because it is the Supreme Lord. It is the Supreme Lord himself who is the only one who can rectify this particular situation. We should understand the amounts of karma that humanity has been implicated in by the slaughter of billions of cows almost daily. Not only cows, but almost every other type of creature on the planet for the satisfaction of man's tongue. And the trees, the forests have been cut down, the fish in the ocean have been fished out. So understand the extremity that humanity has pushed the exploitation of Mother Earth. What is the cure for this? What would a loving father, how would a loving father rectify this situation? So Krishna has a plan, no doubt, Krishna's plan. We don't know what is Krishna's plan, etc., the details and so on, but we do know one thing for sure, that as we raise the flag of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, this yagya of the age, because yagya must be performed to offset any negative influences. And the yagya of the age is described as this yagya sumedashaha, that intelligent men, sumedashaha, su means greatly, medasaha, intelligent men will perform this yagya, this sankirtan yagya of this age. And just by performing this yagya, and remember always, Prabhus, that Sankirtan Yagya is not simply and solely that glorious congregational chanting on the streets. It's also Harikatha. Srila Gurudev regularly used to tell us, who is the greatest Kirtaniya? Who is the greatest Kirtaniya? It is Shukadev Goswami. Shukadev Goswami has given us this illustrious Srimad Bhagavatam. This illustrious Srimad Bhagavatam is the direct literary incarnation of the Lord. So when we chant the glories of the great saintly personalities like Prahlad, like the great avatar, Lord Nrsimhadeva, who we're celebrating today, directly from this Bhagavatam, the sound vibration is going to have an effect in the ether on the negative contamination of the planet. No doubt. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he gives one beautiful essay called The Descent of the Holy Name. And in there, he talks about the fragile sound vibe. We know that sound is the original an element. It's the subtle element. It's how all creation has manifested from sound itself. And at the time of annihilation, everything will be reduced back to sound vibration. So from sound vibration, all has manifested. So the sound vibration of Krishna's glories, of the holy name, are the most powerful antidote in the world at large. It's not necessarily creating communities to become active in some sort of plan to try to bring down 5G towers or try to eliminate various politicians or all these types of things. This is not ever going to actually bring success. What is going to bring success is when men's consciousnesses become touched by the sound vibrations of pure Harikatha or pure Hare Krishna Mahamantra, these Vedic mantras. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he describes like the screaming of the animals as they're about to be slaughtered has added to the contamination of the planet. But particularly, more than anything, what adds to the covering of the planet, the sin of the planet, is when lies are told in a court of law. When the courts of law, when justice itself is totally compromised. And this, unfortunately, this sad fact we're seeing today, there is no justice in the world today. We see many examples in previous history in just the last few months, how topics have been taken to the Supreme Courts, and the Supreme Courts themselves have been filled with demoniac qualities and have rejected. There was one in Germany, some doctors, 1,000 doctors and lawyers, etc., were not comfortable with the way this apparent pandemic was being addressed by the governments and brought it to the court, and the courts threw it out. So we understand that there's no justice in the world at the moment. There's no fragment. All that remains is the sound vibration of the holy names of the Lord. And the devotees at this point in time, we definitely have a responsibility to add to this transcendental sound purification of the planet. We can all take great encouragement from this pastime of Prahlad Maharaj fearlessly confronting his demonic father. this really comes out when we read these pages, how this little boy, he's in the body of a 5-year-old, and he's speaking to his enormous, ferocious, angry father in a very calm, measured way. And he knows it's going to incense the demon, like a snake when you take a stick to it and you prod it and you poke it. This is exactly how Hiranyakashipu is reacting. And indignant and angry, his reddish eyes like molten copper, Hiranyakashipu said to his servants, "O demon, take this boy away from me. He deserves to be killed. Kill him as soon as possible." This is demon mentality. He can't control it, so kill it, annihilate it, somehow or other. So this is the mindset of the demon. This boy Prahlad is the killer of my brother, for he has given up his family to engage in the devotional service of the enemy, Lord Vishnu, like a menial servant. So how angry is Prahlad? Although Prahlad is only 5 years old, even in this young age, he has given up his affectionate relationship with his father and mother. Therefore, he is certainly untrustworthy. Indeed, it is not at all believable that he will behave well towards Vishnu. So he's trying to put some doubt within the heart of this young boy. He's trying to impress upon him the deceitfulness of his behavior in external relationships with his mother and father. Demons are so expert at trying to make us feel guilty, etc. We have to be cautious to this and maintain our absolute nishta. So then Hiranyakashipu, he becomes more and more infuriated, and then he tells his servants, the Rakshasas, my friends, believe in Rakshasas. As much as we believe in demigods, we should believe in Rakshasas. It's described in Kali Yuga. It's a time when Rakshasas will take prominence. Don't doubt it. The demons, Rakshasas, the servants of Hiranyakashipu, thus began striking the tender parts of Prahlad Maharaj's body with their tridents. The demons all had fearful faces, sharp teeth, and reddish coppery beards and hair, and they appeared extremely threatening, making a tumultuous sound, shouting, "Chop him up, pierce him." They began striking Prahlad Maharaj, who sat silently, meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, of course, we're reminded of Haridas Thakur, how he also was inflicted with these same punishments for chanting Hare Krishna. We understand also what is the Swarup of Haridas Thakur. He is Lord Brahma as well as Prahlad. Prahlad is within the heart of the Swarup of Haridas Thakur. So we're appreciating this simultaneously here. It's describing, even though a person who has no assets in pious activities performs some good deed, it will have no result. Thus, the weapons of the demons had no tangible effects on Prahlad Maharaj, because he was a devotee, undisturbed by material conditions and fully engaged in meditating upon and serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unchangeable, who cannot be realized by the material senses, and who is the soul of the entire universe. Such beautiful verses are here. The sound vibration of these verses, hearing the Sanskrit and hearing the English verses themselves, the translations, are very purifying in the atmosphere, especially today. Today, to glorify Lord Nrsimhadeva to the very best of our ability. We will go to any extent to sing his glories and his praises. So then it's described, when all the attempts of the demons to kill Prahlad Maharaj were futile, the king of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, became most fearful, began contriving other means to kill him. Hiranyakashipu was terrified of this fearless nature. So the devotees, we should also desire to become fearless in the face of all obstacles. Srila Gurudev would regularly say to us, I want you to become like lions in this world. Particularly, he would say to his darling daughters, I want you to be like lions. And we see the powerful preaching of, for example, Gangamatas in London. When they were often, I used to go on Sankirtan with them, and they would race inside Maya's domain of the principal supermarkets. And they would run in with the whole Sankirtan party, and they would run around in the aisles chanting Hare Krishna mantra, knowing, of course, that they were going to be chased out. And then they would see the managers rushing down from the end, and then they would race out through the revolving doors, etc., just laughing. They would actually confront in this way. So they were fearless. And then it's describing that Hiranyakashipu could not kill his son by throwing him beneath the feet of big elephants, throwing him among huge, fearful snakes, employing destructive spells, hurling him from the top of a hill, conjuring up illusory tricks, administering poison, starving him, exposing him to severe cold, winds, fire, and water, or throwing heavy stones to crush him. So all this must have taken some time. Understand, all these descriptions weren't just done in a single day. This would take weeks to actually try to arrange all these fearful situations to kill Prahlad. They were really serious to kill him, and they couldn't kill him. How much it must have angered Hiranyakashipu when Hiranyakashipu find that he could not harm Prahlad in any way. He was because he was completely sinless. He was in great anxiety about what to do next. Hiranyakashipu was getting it full in the face of the fear that he had meted out to humanity right back towards him. He was totally terrified of his son. Hiranyakashipu thought, I have used many ill names in chastising this boy Prahlad and have devised many means of killing him. But despite all my endeavors, he could not be killed. Indeed, he saved himself by his own powers without being affected in the least by these treacheries and abominable actions. Although he is very dear to me, he is merely a child. He is situated in complete fearlessness. He resembles a dog's curved tail, which can never be straightened. Because he never forgets my misbehavior and his connection with his master, Lord Vishnu. I can see that this boy's strength is unlimited, for he has not feared any of my punishments. Fearless. He appears immortal. Therefore, because of my enmity towards him, I shall die. Or maybe this will not take place. Because, of course, Hiranyakashipu is thinking that he is immortal from the boons he received from Lord Brahma. Thinking in this way, the king of the Daityas, morose and bereft of bodily luster, remained silent with his face downward. Then Sunda and Amarka, the two sons of Sukracharya, spoke to him in secret. So they encourage him to again allow him to come back to the school. That when they come back to the school, that again they will be able to instruct him in the proper behavior of demons. And they want to have this opportunity again. But it's described later on in this chapter 5 still, that when they take him back into the Gurukul, it's described that all the children were very much affectionate and respectful to Prahlad Maharaj. And because of their tender age, they were not so polluted by the instructions and actions of their teachers. So Prahlad Maharaj has created a good group of associates amongst his schoolboys, the school friends in his school. Thus the boys surrounded Prahlad Maharaj. Giving up their playthings, they sat down to hear him, their hearts and eyes being fixed upon him. They looked at him with great earnestness. Prahlad Maharaj, although born in a demon family, was an exalted devotee and he desired their welfare. Thus he began instructing them about the futility of materialistic life. So we also can reflect this amongst anyone who wants to seriously hear about the correct behavior that humanity should take at this particular time to offset the various increased difficulties that we're experiencing. First of all, they should begin to remember God in any form we want to remind them of God. Just remind them of how the humans breathe out oxygen, out carbon dioxide rather. And the plants, they give us nourishing oxygen in return. How phenomenal. This photosynthesis, for example. And so much phenomena in the world that we have no answers for. We can actually approach the scientists like this. We can ask them, do they understand so many phenomena on Earth? They have to eventually come to their knees and accept that there is a supreme controller, accept that there is a supreme master superior to them. So this is the battle, so to speak. This is the battle that the devotees are engaged in, internally as well as externally. Internally, we also are purifying ourselves of our previous sanskars, etc. We have been in the bodies of demons and so many adverse people to Krishna since time immemorial. We had this adverse desire to try to enjoy separately from the Lord. It's described that in this region of the Tatashta, or in the Brahman, where the Jiva was originally, he was in a state of Shantaras. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he describes that before this material designation, before this material false ego, in other words, we were in a state of neutrality. We didn't want to render service to the Lord, and neither did we want to exploit the material energy, which we didn't really know about at that point. But then something rose within us because of our offensive nature towards Krishna. And because of that offensive nature towards Krishna and not turning towards him, then we accepted the option of coming into this material world and accepting a material body and a false ego that must come by residence in this material world. The nature of the jiva is to enjoy. This is ananda bhyasat. We are enjoyers by nature. If we're not enjoying and relishing service to the Supreme Lord, then we must be trying to exploit the material nature for pleasure. So therefore we have to have a false ego. And Lord Brahma, he confers this false ego on us, and he fills it with fear, etc. Fear of death, principally. So this is the fear that the demons are able to excite within ignorant humanity. So avidya is the fault that is prevalent in the world. And if we have some access to speaking what is pure vidya, what is pure knowledge to people, and if we practice it ourselves diligently, this is most important to have authority or to have potency. If the devotees are carefully practicing the principles that Prahlad Maharaj will enunciate further on in his teachings to the children, if we're able to walk our talk, so to speak, if we're able to carefully hear this sound vibration daily of the Maha Mantra, we're able to absorb ourselves in hearing the beautiful pastimes of the Bhagavatam, etc., then naturally we are going to be figures of authority in the world of blindness, of blind men leading other blind men, as was described previously. The governments are blind and they're leading their other cohorts, etc., into a deep, dark well. So the blind leading the blind. So Prahlad Maharaj is saying, oh, Rati Manjari, you can please quote this verse at the beginning. Now we're in chapter 6 of this Prahlad Charita. We come from chapter 5, chapter 6 now.
Yes.
This first verse.
Shri Prahlad Uvacha Kaumar Achare Pragyo Dharman Bhagavataniha Durlabham Manusham Janma Tadapya Dhruvamarthadam.
Thank you. Thank you. So Prahlad is saying, one, he's speaking now to his to the school children. One who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of the body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved. And although temporary, like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. So we are understanding through so many teachings the pleasure and speciality of pure devotional service. When we're able to achieve that moment when we feel, yes, I am satisfying Guru by my seva. Yes, this particular activity is pleasing to Guru. Guru is Krishna's representative, of course. Without Guru, without that instructing leadership of Guru, then we cannot come out of this material darkness. So all of us, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed that every man should become like Guru. Doesn't mean that we should all sit on big seats, etc., and have so many garlands and things like this, but we should take this role of responsibly giving vidya, giving knowledge to humanity, to explaining what is material and what is spiritual, according to the teachings of Shastra. Very clearly this. So Prahlad, he continues for many verses, instructing very beautifully the young children. And he says, every human being has a maximum duration of life of 100 years. But for one who cannot control his senses, half those years are completely lost because at night he sleeps 12 hours, being covered by ignorance. Therefore, such a person has a lifetime of only 50 years. In the tender age of childhood, when everyone is bewildered, one passes 10 years. Similarly, in boyhood, engaged in sporting and playing, one passes another 10 years. In this way, 20 years are wasted. Similarly, in old age, when one is an invalid, unable to perform even material activities, one passes another 20 years wastefully. So Prahlad is very explicitly mapping out the way our life unfolds in this world. If we're not taking shelter of Krishna, we're only going to be concerned with eating, sleeping, mating, and offending, which is the activity of animals, as we know. So these are all perhaps basic teachings, but it's very helpful for us to come back to this platform, always to come back to this platform solidly and take a rain check, so to speak, and check, yes, am I fully engaging my time in service to the Lord? Am I increasing my... There are three types of service, we understand. It's described, Bhagavat Prapti Abhilas. This is when one wants to engage in direct service to the Lord. And then there is Anukul Abhilas. This is when I want to engage in favorable service to the Lord. And then there is Sohard Abhilas. This is when I want to make the Lord my friend. So there are degrees always. There is progressive movement of consciousness always. We begin from these clear instructions of Prahlad in how to accept the reality of the presence of the Lord in every atom of existence, how to appreciate his living presence within the world around me. If we're always hearing lectures from Srila Gurudev, lectures from Srila Prabhupada, if we're always hearing and in touch with some type of Harikatha, if we're chanting, etc., then we're going to be connected to this living reality of the presence of the Lord within everything. There's nothing in existence that is separate from the Lord. And gradually, we can elevate ourselves from hearing how Srila Gurudev will walk us through step by step. Gradually, we will come to the teachings of Rupa Goswami, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, etc., through our Guru Parampara, our lineage, this current. Eventually, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is he instructing in Chaitanya Charitamrita? He's gradually giving us these remarkable instructions like Rai Ramananda Samvad, which is the very heart of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Who is Sri Radhika? Who is Krishna? What is the relationship between Radha and Krishna? How can I serve them? How can I particularly serve Sri Radhika? So all of these instructions are there on the platform of these teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. This is the basic foundation. If this basic foundation is unsteady, how can we be confident about our progress? This beautiful verse. Shraddha Shabde Vishvasa Koi Sudrita Nishchoy. Shraddha is considered the first principle in the stages leading to prema. But this verse describing Shraddha, Shraddha Shabde Vishvasa Koi, Vishvasa, this means confidence. If I have confidence that Krishna is present within every atom, like we see Prahlad. When he was thrown off these cliffs, what happened? He had absolute confidence in the Supreme Lord, not necessarily that he's going to save me, but whatever his will manifest. I will tolerate whatever eventualities will actually come to me. So if the world has become a little more uncomfortable than it was previously, so let me tolerate this carefully. Let me comfortably tolerate this, and let me continue with my enthusiastic understanding of who is Krishna. How can I go forward quickly without fully appreciating the object of where I'm going to? For example, if I want to visit Vrindavan, if I'm in England or something, if I start thinking deeply about the beautiful forests, the Jamuna, Giriraj, Govardhan, etc., all of the residents of Vrindavan very deeply, then it's increasing my enthusiasm to actually come to Vrindavan. Similarly, if we're thinking about the sweetness and speciality and beauty of Krishna, then my enthusiasm is going to increase to come to. Without this enthusiasm, we can't make much progress. If things are a little lethargic and we're not feeling that we're actually going from moment to moment in our lives, then we need to increase in some areas. So on this special day of Nrsimha Caturdasi, we can take great inspiration from Sri Prahlad and appreciate how his constant meditation on the Lord has brought him to this fearless condition in front of his horrific father. And now he's instructing the beautiful young boys in the Gurukul. And there's many verses here describing. He's saying in one verse, money is so dear that one conceives of money as being sweeter than honey. We should listen carefully to this instruction of Prahlad. If we're thinking that money is going to solve my problems, this means that objects are going to solve my problems. This is not true for a devotee. A devotee doesn't need money. He doesn't need objects. He doesn't need facility. He just needs to deepen his faith day by day in the precepts of who is Radha and Krishna, particularly in Vrindavan, or in Goradam, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Radha and Krishna directly. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Hladini Shakti Asmat. Ekatmanam. They are one. Radha and Krishna are one within the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prahlad is instructing, therefore, who can give up the desire to accumulate money, especially in household life? Thieves, professional servants, soldiers, and merchants try to acquire money even at the risk of their very dear lives. This is to give us pure insight into the mentality of this demonic influence that is contaminating the earth. When we hear the focus that is given on the ignorant mentality, in very simple language, Prahlad is bringing out all of the anomalies, we can say, the failures of those materialistic persons seeking to enjoy. He completely crushes that whole idea to the young boys in the Gurukul. He says, if a person too attached to the duties of family maintenance is unable to control his senses, the core of his heart is immersed in how to accumulate money. Although he knows that one who takes the wealth of others will be punished by the law of the government and by the laws of Yamaraj after death, he continues cheating others to acquire money. He's describing the depth of the illusion, the depths of the illusion that the materialist is in today. He says, oh, my friends, sons of demons, in this material world, even those who are apparently advanced in education have the propensity to consider, this is mine, and that is for others. Thus, they are always engaged in providing the necessities of life to their families in a limited conception of family life. Just like uneducated cats and dogs, they are unable to take to spiritual knowledge. Instead, they are bewildered and overcome by ignorance. So Prabhupada is saying many times, these ignorant people, they are thinking, this is mine, that's yours. This is like divide everything. And for me, for my sense pleasure. So he's speaking very beautifully through this chapter 6 to his, time is running on now, to his schoolboys in the school. And then they inquire from him at one point how he got this knowledge, where he gets this knowledge from. And Prahlad, he reveals that while his father was performing his 60 years of austerity, while Prahlad was in the womb of Kayadu, is saying that the child within this woman's womb is faultless and sinless. This is how Narad is speaking to those devas who want to actually kill the child. And he's explaining to the devas that the great devotee is within the womb of the wife of Hiranyakashipu. And when the great saint Narada Muni thus spoke, King Indra, being respectful of Narad's words, immediately released my mother. Because of my being a devotee of the Lord, all the demigods circumambulated her. Then they returned to their celestial kingdom. And then it's describing, and Srila Gurudev describes in a recent lecture, why didn't Kayadu, Prahlad's mother, remember all the instructions, as did Prahlad after 60,000 years of instruction. And he describes because actually Kayadu wasn't directly initiated in the same way that Prahlad was. Prahlad's enthusiasm to hear these words created a foundation for him to absorb the truth of this very easily, whereas his mother was not so anxious or enthusiastic to actually acquire this knowledge. This is just like the story of Gokarna. We know the story of Gokarna when he was listening to the Bhagavatam and he was chanting the Bhagavatam for his ghostly haunted brother. What's his name? Somebody tell me his name, the brother of Domya. Dukari, yes, Dukari. Thank you so much. Yes, Dukari. Yes, Dukari, that ghostly haunted brother of his.
Dundukari, Maharaj, Dundukari.
Dundukari, yes, Dundukari. Thank you. Who was that speaking to him?
Yadav Prabhu from Sardinia.
Yadavji. Oh, Yadavji, young Yadavji. Beautiful. Yes,
Thank you,
very
Maharaj.
beautiful. Thank you. Hari Bol. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Yes, Dundukari. And Dundukari, after the Bhagavatam recitation, there was a description of these bamboo staff, and it would burst one of the knots daily. This was the embodiment of Dundukari. And at the end of the recitation, the Vaikuntha plane came and just took Dundukari back, and all the other residents, they complained, well, why didn't they take all us back as well? And it was explained to them that they didn't because they weren't as enthusiastic. They weren't sitting on the edges of their seats. They didn't really want it that much. So we can examine this within our own hearts today. From the nature of Prahlad, he was on the edge of his seat, so to speak, in absolute ecstatic love of the Lord, in complete fearless attraction to the Lord. He was relishing his relationship with the Lord. This sweetness was there within his heart at every single moment. So Prahlad is explaining to his dear friends about how he got this knowledge directly from Narad Rishi. Narad Rishi is speaking for such a long time, all of these beautiful transcendental instructions. And then again, Prahlad is going to be presented to his teachers. So I'll just jump ahead now to come to this. Just let me think. So there's many instructions here he's giving, and so many instructions. Oh, I've missed a bit out. Yes, so then he's brought back into the presence of Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyakashipu, by this time, has become so frustrated that he's simply not able to stop Prahlad. He knows that Prahlad is completely fixed in his devotion to the Supreme Lord. So, I'm just trying to find the verse here. Just a second. So, he's brought into the presence of his father. And just a minute, where are we? Oh, okay, we'll go to the beginning of this chapter 8. So then he comes in again. So when Sanda and Amarka, the sons of Sukracharya, they became very frightened that Prahlad was not being influenced by their teachings at all. So when they observed this, they became terrified for their own necks, and they raced to Hiranyakashipu, and they observed that all the students, the sons of the demons, were becoming advanced in Krishna consciousness. They were terrified at this. Because of the association of Prahlad Maharaj, they were afraid, the teachers. They approached the king of the demons and described the situation as it was. So we see this is an example of one young boy. Just see how one young boy can turn a situation, a world global situation, bigger than, this was a universal situation with Hiranyakashipu. There were all the different planetary systems, all the devas, all the demons, etc. were involved. And one 5-year-old boy was able to tip the entire balance. How remarkable is Krishna? What instruments can he use to actually change circumstances? Be confident that we don't have to do anything in an active way to change anything that is happening on the planet, except to change our own consciousnesses to becoming more enthusiastic and enlivened about the reality of Krishna's presence around us within this world. So this is just one young boy was able to completely counteract everything by his fearless nishta to the Lord. When Hiranyakashipu understood the entire situation, he was extremely angry, so much so that his body trembled. Thus, he finally decided to kill his son Prahlad. Hiranyakashipu was by nature very cruel, and feeling insulted, he began hissing like a snake trampled upon by someone's foot. His son Prahlad was peaceful, mild, and gentle. How remarkable. What is the potency of the devotee? What is the quality of the devotee? He's always peaceful. He's always mild. He's always gentle. This completely disturbs the demons more than anything. They want to agitate everybody. The devotees should not become agitated in the circumstances we're faced with today. Don't become overly agitated. Become knowledgeable about the situation. Personally, I don't believe that we should be in ignorance about what's taking place on the planet. We should know what's taking place to the limit of our capacity, but we should understand that what is going to affect the change is the Supreme Lord himself, just like when we remember the story of Varahadev, when Lord Brahma, he was concerned how to bring the earth out of the Garbhodak ocean. He thought for some time and then immediately realized, yes, he doesn't have the solution. Then he took shelter of Krishna. He took full shelter of Krishna. As soon as he took shelter of Krishna, from his nostril, this small little boar appeared, Varahadev, who solved the whole problem immediately. Just like Lord Brahma, when he was searching for the reality of his existence on the lotus flower, he went down the stem of the lotus looking himself. This is called Avaroha Panta. He was trying to, by the ascending process himself, he was trying to discern what was the nature of his existence. And when he gave that up and sat quietly on the lotus, accepting the reality of the Lord at that time, in submission, at that time, he was able to hear that tapa and begin his penance, etc. So this dependence on Krishna is where this crisis in the world today should push us all strongly towards complete dependence on the Lord. He has a plan. Depend on the Lord. And the plan for us individually is to wake up our Krishna consciousness to a higher degree, whichever degree we're in. We want to actually increase our awareness of the Lord. So when Hiranyakashipu understood the entire situation, he was extreme. Yes, I read this. His son Prahlad was peaceful, mild, and gentle. His senses were under control, and he stood before Hiranyakashipu with folded hands. According to Prahlad's age and behavior, he was not to be chastised. You don't chastise a 5-year-old child. Prabhupada described that actually up to the age of 5, one should be careful with the child and cultivate affectionate dealings. And then after this, one can bring the child more into line with the teachings, etc., where we want him to become situated. Yet, with staring, crooked eyes, Hiranyakashipu rebuked him with the following words. Hiranyakashipu said, "O most impudent, most unintelligent, disruptor of the family, O lowest of mankind, you have violated my power to rule you." Violated his power to rule him. He can't control him. He's incensed with anger. Therefore, you are an obstinate fool. Today, I shall send you to the place of Yamaraj. My son Prahlad, you rascal, you know that when I am angry, all the planets in the 3 worlds tremble, along with their chief rulers. By whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you? So inspiring, his fearless nature. Prahlad replied, at this outraged, huge, not only is he a demon, he's his father. As I described previously, generally a young boy in the presence of his father is intimidated to some degree if the father's unhappy, just by that family relationship. But Prahlad had completely broken family ties with his connection to the Supreme Lord. My dear king, the source of my strength, of which you are asking, is also the source of yours. Indeed, the original source of all kinds of strength is one. He is not only your strength or mine, but the only strength for everyone. Without him, no one can get any strength, whether moving or not moving, superior or inferior. Everyone, including Lord Brahma, is controlled by the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a very, very beautiful verse. This is verse 7 of chapter 7. Very, very beautiful. If Rati Manjari is there still, you can chant this verse, Rati Manjari.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Text 7, chapter 7.
Just a second.
Chapter 8, Maharaj, chapter 8. Hare Krishna.
Sorry. Apologies. Chapter 8. Is that Yadav again?
Yes.
Thank you, Yadav.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's why I'm, yes, I was
Yeah,
talking-
sorry. Chapter 8. Yes, sorry, we left chapter 7 behind. Nakevalam me papatas charup rajan savaibalam balinam cha parasham. Chant this.
Yes.
Text 7. Chant.
Shri Prahlad Uvacha न केवलं मे भवतश्च राजन् तवै बलं बलिनां च परेषां परे वरेमि स्थिरजङ्गमाये ब्रह्मादयो येन वशं प्रणीताः.
Thank you. Prahlad Maharaj said, my dear king, the source of my strength. Yes, I've just spoken that. So this is a very powerful verse for us to consider. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, this is the next text, who is the supreme controller and time factor, is the power of the senses, the power of the mind, the power of the body, and the vital force of the senses. His influence is unlimited. He is the best of all living entities, the controller of the 3 modes of material nature. By his own power, he creates the cosmic manifestation, maintains it, and annihilates it also. How compassionate is Prahlad? He's preaching to his enraged father. He's confident that his father still has the ability to listen and be saved from his untimely death. Prahlad continued, my dear father, please give up your demonic mentality. Do not discriminate in your heart between enemies and friends. Make your mind equiposed towards everyone. Except for the uncontrolled and misguided mind, there is no enemy within the world. How much that must have pricked Hiranyakashipu. When one sees everyone on the platform of equality, one then comes to the position of worshiping the Lord perfectly. Yes, this mood of equality. In this world today, we have a lot of talk about the elite, etc. We have these different structures in society where it seems like those who have more money are getting more money, and those who have less seem to be more oppressed and having less money. The exploited and those who are exploiting. This is the great divide. This is the great division. And people are trying to jump into various areas where they can get the most material benefit out of the situation. But this is dividing people instead of uniting them. The only method of uniting people is to accept the control of the Supreme Lord. Either we accept the control of the Supreme Lord or we accept the control of the demons, one or the other. We have a choice. Prahlad continues, in former times, there were many fools like you who did not conquer the 6 enemies that steal away the wealth of the body. So now he's directly calling his father a fool. These fools were very proud. This is the quality of a materialist. A materialist is by nature proud. He's proud of anything. He's proud of his bank balance, his family, his car, his shoes, his hair, anything he's proud of. Whereas the devotee, he takes the emblem of Trinadapi Sunishena on his neck, and he's always looking for that humble state of consciousness. These fools are very proud, thinking, I have conquered all enemies in all 10 directions. But if a person is victorious over the 6 enemies and is equipoised toward all living entities, for him, there are no enemies. Enemies are merely imagined by one in ignorance. We see in the family, even though there's one big demon just recently had a divorce with his family, with his wife. So where is his even family happiness? Even they can't maintain that because they can't control their senses. Hiranyakashipu replied, you rascal, you are trying to minimize my value. If you were better than me at controlling the senses, this is over-intelligent. I can therefore understand that you desire to die at my hands, for this kind of nonsensical talk is indulged in those about to die. Hiranyakashipu is not stupid. The demons aren't stupid. Don't underestimate their material intelligence. They're very, very clever. If you take a microscope out and see what they've organized now in the world, it's extremely clever. They got everyone wearing a stupid wet cloth in front of their mouths, practically breathing in their own carbon dioxide, reducing the respiratory strength of their own lungs. They've got the whole world doing this, as well as they've, imposed so many lockdowns and restrictions in our freedom, etc. Just control. This is the quality of a demon. We see clearly, Rakshasas. Why should we be surprised? But we have the antidote fully in the heart of Prahlad's teachings. So he's challenged his father to such an extreme degree. O most unfortunate Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu goes on, you have always described a supreme being other than me, a supreme being who is above everything, who is the controller of everyone, and who is all-pervading. But where is he? If he is everywhere, then why is he not present before me in this pillar? Because you are speaking so much nonsense, I shall now sever your head from your body. Let me see your most worshipable God come to protect you. I want to see it. Being obsessed with anger, Hiranyakashipu, who was very great in bodily strength, thus chastised his exalted devotee son Prahlad with harsh words, cursing him again and again. Hiranyakashipu took up his sword, got up from his royal throne, and with great anger struck his fist against the column. Crescendo. This is the crescendo that we've been waiting for. Then from within the pillar came a fearful sound, which appeared to crack the covering of the universe. Oh, my dear Yudhisthira, this sound reached even the abodes of the demigods, like Lord Brahma. And when the demigods heard it, they thought, oh, now our planets are being destroyed. These are the higher planetary systems. This is beyond Swagaloka, Indra's domain, which Hiranyakashipu conquered. These are Mahaloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka, where Hiranyakashipu could not enter. While showing his extraordinary prowess, Hiranyakashipu, who desired to kill even his own son, heard that wonderful, tumultuous sound. So we described previously how sound is the original element, the creation of this universe. So the first awareness they had of Nrsimhadeva is by their ears, by this tumultuous sound, this incredible roaring. If one day we're fortunate to hear that roaring, perhaps for an instant we might be intimidated. But then if we're devotees, then it fully becomes the most beautiful, ecstatic sound in existence, listening to the roar of Sri Nrsimhadeva. While showing his extraordinary prowess, Hiranyakashipu, who decided, upon hearing the sound, the other leaders of the demons were afraid. None of them could find the origin of that sound in the assembly. So one day this Harinam Sankirtan sound will intimidate the demons to such a degree. This Harinam, this is Mahaprabhu's mission. Mahaprabhu has come himself. He's brought all his parikars. He's brought all the maidservants of Srimati Radhika. We know from the teachings of Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj that Sri Radhika is even more able to control Krishna than he is to control her. Sri Radhika is the controlling personality within this relationship. So this is Sri Radhika's movement, this Gaudiya mission, and all of her maidservants from Sri Rupa Goswami, Rupa Manjari on down, Kamala Manjari, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, etc., Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. All of these personalities have come from Sri Radhika. So this mission has got to be successful. It cannot fail. So even it might look dark sometimes, we should never for a moment, not even for a moment, entertain that it can fail. It cannot fail. To prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial, in other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. The form was neither that of a man nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. So we know the pastime, how they fought together dramatically. And at one point, it even seemed that Hiranyakashipu was going to have the upper hand just to create more of a drama in the wonderful sport for Sri Krishna in this exhilarating battle. And then finally, Nrsimhadeva, he pushes the weapons aside of Hiranyakashipu, and I'll read this part. Then he takes, all of this is beautiful, but I'm just noticing on my phone that the battery is running down. So I want to. Thereafter, the great demon Hiranyakashipu, who was extremely angry, swiftly attacked Nrsimhadeva with his club and began to beat him. Lord Nrsimhadeva, however, captured the great demon along with his club, just as Garuda might capture a great snake. O Yudhisthira, the great son of Bharat, when Lord Nrsimhadeva gave Hiranyakashipu a chance to slip from his hand, just as Garuda sometimes plays with a snake and let it slip from his nostril, his mouth, the demigods who had lost their abodes and who were hiding behind the clouds for fear of the demon did not consider that incident very good. Indeed, they were perturbed. What is the nishta of the demigods? Consider. What was their nishta? We know many times Brihaspati is described in the third canto by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as being Brahman realized. After Krishna saves them and goes back again to his own abode, then again the demigods, they try to enjoy material excesses in swaga. Again, they forget Krishna. They're not pure devotees. They're devotees in the sense that they perform service to Krishna, but their ultimate goal is to get back their material situation. So our ultimate goal is not to make a happy place here in the material world, not to annihilate and eliminate the demons so we can go back to our various material enjoying propensities. That's not the purpose. For many, it will be the purpose, just relief from the demonic cloud, so to speak. But the devotees have to go further and to try to enliven, that we don't want to remain in this material consciousness, remain in this material world. We actually want something beyond this material world. When Hiranyakashipu was freed from the hands of, oh, yes, okay. As a snake captures a mouse, or Garuda captures a very venomous snake, Lord Nrsimhadeva captured Hiranyakashipu, who could not be pierced even by the thunderbolt of King Indra. As Hiranyakashipu moved his limbs here and there and all around, very much afflicted at being captured, Lord Nrsimhadeva placed the demon on his lap, supporting him with his thighs, and in the doorway of the assembly hall, the Lord very easily tore the demon to pieces with the nails of his hands. So we understand that all these benedictions were completely cheated by Krishna. Krishna is the greatest of cheats. The demon thinks they're the cheats. They're the ones that are cheating everything. They take great pride in their cheating. These cheaters, we can name them if we want to, on the planet now, thinking that they're getting away with murder, and they seem to be getting away with murder, but they're going to be cheated fully themselves. They cannot elude the law of karma. They cannot elude the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And those of us who hold strongly to the path of righteousness, to the path of purity, to the path of sadhan bhajan, will be fearless in this attack by the demons. Lord Nrsimhadeva's mouth and mane were sprinkled with drops of blood, and his fierce eyes, full of anger, were impossible to look at. Licking the edge of his mouth with his tongue, the Supreme Personality of God in Nrsimhadeva, decorated with the garland of intestines taken from Hiranyakashipu's abdomen, resembled a lion that had just killed an elephant. So we understand how angry was the Lord. The Lord had tolerated all these insults to his pure, most compassionate devotee, Sri Prahlad, in a young boy's body. This beautiful, beautiful, incredible person, Prahlad Bhakta, so tolerant, so kind, so generous, all good qualities of forgiveness, even wanting to forgive his father right at the very end. But his absolute nishta endeared the Lord entirely. And when all the demigods is described, they wanted to pacify the Lord then. After the Lord had slain the king of demons, we understand that Lord Brahma was requesting Lakshmi Dev to go and pacify the Lord now, because his anger seemed to be unabated. And then she said, oh, well, actually, I don't want to approach the Lord today in this condition. And then Lord Brahma, he requested Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, no, he didn't want to go also. And then finally, Lord Brahma, he asked Prahlad, and Prahlad comes, and fearlessly again, while even the Supreme Lord is in this ferocious condition of having killed these demons, millions of demons, because it wasn't just Hiranyakashipu he killed. With all his many arms, Nrsimhadev, he killed all the other cohorts of Hiranyakashipu. He killed so many demons with his various weapons and so on. And then in this fearsome mood, Prahlad, he walks up and he quietly begins to chant very, very beautiful prayers to the Lord. And the Lord becomes totally endeared by these beautiful prayers of Prahlad. He says, my Lord, you are never conquered by anyone. I am certainly not afraid of your ferocious mouth and tongue, your eyes bright like the sun, or your frowning eyebrows. I do not fear your sharp, pinching teeth, your garland of intestines, your mane soaked with blood, or your high, wedge-like ears, nor do I fear your tumultuous roaring, which makes elephants flee to distant places, or your nails, which are meant to kill your enemies. So Prahlad, coming in this most beautiful, fearful mood towards Nrsimhadev, completely melts Nrsimhadev's heart. And Nrsimhadev takes Prahlad and places him on his lap. And he smells his head, I think. Where is it? So many beautiful prayers here. Yes, so many prayers are beautiful for us to sing and chant. Although Prahlad was only a boy, this is now in chapter 10, was only a boy when he heard the benedictions offered by Lord Nrsimhadev, he considered, oh yes, then Lord Nrsimhadev, he asks Prahlad to receive benedictions. It's saying at the end of chapter 9, Prahlad Maharaj was the best person in the family of Asuras who always aspire for material happiness. Nonetheless, although allured by the Supreme Personality of Godhead who offered him all benedictions for material happiness because of his unalloyed Krishna consciousness, he did not want to take any material benefit. So we see how Nrsimhadev was totally captivated and pacified by the beautiful prayers of Prahlad. And then the first request that Prahlad asks from Lord Nrsimhadev is to relieve his father. And Nrsimhadev said, yes, he's already been relieved. In fact, 21 generations of your dynasty have all been relieved. So this is basically the conclusion of this incredible, intoxicatingly beautiful pastime. It's filled with drama, which is why generally on this day we always have a drama to go along with it. It's very graphic, very beautiful, but the sentiments and purity of the young boy Prahlad, they really do resonate, and we really do need to pray for this fearless mentality in the condition that we are in today. Because, my friends, I think it's going to get a lot worse. I don't think we might be grumbling now and complaining now at our present situation. None of you can fly to be in India right now. We're all restricted by the demon's rules, etc. So we're being pushed and pushed more and more, but we're also going to be pushed more in the future. And we should take the beautiful example of Prahlad Maharaj. Yes, if you can push this picture, this is the darshan of Nrsimhadev in Devapali today that is always benedicting us with mercy here. So if you open the screen, you can see. Generally, when we look at the eyes in particular, this is Lord Nrsimhadev at Nrsimhapali in Godrum Dweep. And the eyes that are most prominent now are normally not with the two ornamental eyes that are there. Usually, if you look at previous pictures, it's just three eyes up from there, and you don't usually see these cavities, more or less, in the stone, which look like natural eyes in this multiform. But today, on his appearance day, the eyes are placed directly in those cavities, so you can get a sense of this personality. Of course, Nrsimhadev, he appeared many millions of years ago in the Chakshush Manvantara, millions of years ago. But for us devotees, it seems like just yesterday, Lord Nrsimhadev was here. We were celebrating him just yesterday. In fact, we've been celebrating his amazing pastimes forever. We're always thinking of Nrsimhadev somewhere in our consciousness. He's never far away from our minds because we're always seeking his protection. So in that way, it demonstrates the eternality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this form in particular. So this was a very nice darshan this morning, and there were many devotees there. So we're most fortunate to
You muted yourself.
Your mic is muted, Guru Maharaj.
Okay. Yeah, between Yadav and his mother, I'm okay. Okay, my battery is going right down here. So I just want to thank you all very much for your patience and listening to this divine literature of Srimad Bhagavatam. And please read out all the different parts that I left out, the prayers that Prahlad offered, and his teachings to the Gurukuls, They're so extensive. And Prabhupada's purports in particular are absolutely enthralling. And the enthusiasm that the entire Charita can generate in the heart of the devotee. And today, sharing with devotees these pastimes is such a joy and a pleasure. So if anyone, Madhukar Prabhu can sing a beautiful kirtan for us. So Madhukar Prabhu, living in Keshavji Gaudiya Math across here, is going to sing a kirtan for us. Madhukar Prabhu. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindhavevacha, patidanam pavanyo vaishnavim. Madhukar Prabhu. Madhukar, unmute yourself. Where is
Yes.
Madhukar? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Is it to share my screen?
Yeah, but you have to do quite quickly because my battery is about to run out. So please do immediately.
Okay, it says that the host disabled participants screen sharing.
Amitji. Is Amitji there?
Yes, Gurudev.
Open the screen for Madhukar. Quickly.
Okay.
Immediate. Okay, Madhukar, sing.
Okay, you can see my screen now?
Not yet, but just yes, I can. Yes, I can. Sing. I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Chant. Go ahead.
Read the translation really quick?
No, sing first.
Okay.
Then we read the translation after. How many verses is it? What are you going to sing?
You can't see it on my screen. It is 10 verses. It's small verses, like Gauranga Balite Habit verses.
Okay, go ahead. I may leave before the end because my battery's almost run out.
Okay. You can see my screen, right? Everybody?
Yes, we can see you and hear you. You're not so loud anymore.
Shatya sadara Kotinati pratistasha Shatya sadara Hridaya shodhanaya Krishnara vasana Hridaya shodhanaya Krishnara vasana Nrsimha charane more toka mana Nrsimha charane more toka mana Kandiya Nrsimha pade Magi boko kon Kandiya Nrsimha pade Magi boko kon Nirapade navadipe Jugala bhajana Nirapade navadipe Jugala bhajana Bhai 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 jar Darshana se hari Bhai 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 jar Darshana se hari Prasanna hoibe kabe More daya kori Prasanna hoibe kabe More daya kori Yadyapi bhishana murti Dushta jiva prati Yadyapi bhishana murti Dushta jiva prati प्रहलादादि कृष्ण भक्त जाने भद्र आते प्रहलादादि कृष्ण भक्त जाने भद्र आते कबे वा प्रसन्न होए सकृपा बचने कबे वा प्रसन्न होए सकृपा बचने निर्भय करिबे मोराय किंचने निर्भय करिबे मोराय किंचने स्वच्छंदे वैसो हे वत्स श्री गौरांग धामे स्वच्छंदे वैसो हे वत्स धामे जुगल भजन हो रति हो नामे जुगल भजन हो रति हो नामे मम भक्त कृपा बले विघ्न जावे दूर मम भक्त कृपा बले विघ्न जावे दूर शुद्ध चित्ते भज राधा कृष्ण रस पूरा शुद्ध चित्ते भज राधा कृष्ण रस पूरा बोले कवे मस्तक बोले कवे मस्तक ऊपर श्री चरण हसे धरिबे ईश्वर श्री चरण हसे धरिबे ईश्वर यमनि जोगल प्रेमे सात्विक विकारे अमनि जोगल प्रेमे सात्विक विकारे धराय लुटिब आमी श्री नृसिंहद्वारे धराय लुटिब आमी श्री नृसिंहद्वारे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय नृसिंहदेव जय नृसिंहदेव नृसिंहदेव जय नृसिंहदेव जय नृसिंहदेव 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 जय नृसिंह जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त जय गुरुदेवा 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 जय गुरुदेवा जय प्रभुपादा जय निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल
Jai Jai. Translation, Prabhu, straight away.
Should I read the translation?
Yes, 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 immediately.
Or is there no time?
No, yes, time. Read,
Is it
read,
internet? Oh my God.
read. Translation.
Anyways, I'm not hearing anything, so I'm just going to read the translation because I don't know what else to do. So, perpetually residing within my wicked heart are the 6 enemies headed by lust, as well as duplicity, the desire for recognition, and deceit. My prayer at the lotus feet of Sri Nrsimhadeva is that he will purify my heart and awaken longing within me for serving Sri Krishna. When will I, crying at the feet of Sri Nrsimhadeva, beg him that I may engage in the bhajan of Shri Shri Radha Krishna Jugal and Shri Navadvip Dham, safe from all danger? When will that Shri Hari, the sight of whom strikes fear into fear itself, become pleased with me and show me his mercy? Although he appears as the embodiment of terror to the wicked, to Prahlad and the other devotees of Shri Krishna, he is exceedingly kind and gentle. When, oh when, will he be pleased with me, and speaking words brimming with compassion, make this insignificant fool fearless? He will say, "O dear child, reside here freely in Shri Gauranga's abode. May you remain engaged in the loving service of the divine couple, and may you develop deep attraction for Shri Nam. On the strength of my devotee's mercy, all obstacles are cast far away. With a pure heart, engage in bhajan of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna, which is saturated with ras." After having said such, when will that Lord happily place his lotus feet upon my head? At once, in the divine prem of Shri Shri Radha Krishna Jugal, I shall undergo ecstatic transformations, sattvic vikar, and roll about on the ground at the door of Sri Nrsimhadeva's temple. Jai Shri Bhakti Vigna Vinashankari Shri Nrsimhadeva ki jai.
Jai.
Bhakta Pravar Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Nrsimha Caturdasi Titi ki jai. Titi
Jai.
Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri
Jai.
Gurudev ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Harinam
Jai.
Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hari, Hari
Hari
Bol. Dandavas Madhaka. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I'll mute
Wonderful.
myself.
Totally wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you all, Vaishnavas. Thank you all.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yadav particularly, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yes.
you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maharaj, you're
Thank you.
muted right now.
Oh, why am I
Hare
muted?
Krishna
Why
Maharaj,
would-
Maharaj, thank you,
Hari
thank
Bol,
you.
can you hear me now?
Dandavat, Maharaj.
Hold a
Dandavat.
second.
Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me now? Hari Bol.
Yes.
Hari Bol.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Maharaj, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Dandavats. Dandavats, all of you.
Dandavat Maharaj.
Nrsimhadev Caturdasi ki jai.
Jai.
So
But
now
Maharaj,
we can
Jai.
break, here in India anyway, we can break our fast.
Dandavat Maharaji. Thank you so
Hari
much.
Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Dandavat.
Hari Bol, Hari Krishna.
Maharaj.
Hari Bol,
Dandavat Maharaj. We're from Hong Kong.
Hari Bol, Hong Kong, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Krishna. Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Haribol Maharaj.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Danyavas, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, Jai Govinda. Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Dandavat pranams, Maharaji. Thank you so
Danyavas,
much.
Hari Bol,
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, all of you. Hare Krishna. Vaishnavas ki jai. Yes. Nrsimha Caturdasi ki jai. Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Jai, Hari Bol.
Okay. Danyavas. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Okay.